All right, everyone. So today I wanted to share with you guys some really important information that is going to drastically improve the speed at which you farm. And I'm talking about a serious speed increase here. You could easily double the rate at which you farm and start to see twice as many runs per hour or maybe even more. And there's actually some really simple mistakes that you could have been making this entire time that have contributed to that. So what I wanted to do is start off with the simple stuff first and then kind of lead into a bit more of the in-depth farming strategy and really how you want to approach it, because I've noticed that there are videos out there about farming, but they really mostly focus on the units, and the units are obviously important, but if you don't know exactly what you're doing with the units and you don't know how to really approach that, then it's not going to matter. You're still going to have a slow farm speed. So knowing what to do is also very important. Anyway, though, let's get into the basic stuff here that you might be able to fix that will right off the bat increase your farm speed. So first of all, what you want to do is you want to go to the game settings and you want to scroll down to the bottom. And what you'll see here is you'll see this AI settings. Very important. I believe the game puts you on default in balanced here. And what you want to do is you actually want to go to the other options and do a bit of experimentation. Now, I'll say generally speaking, 90% of the time, offensive is going to be your best bet when it comes to farming, but that's not always necessarily the case. I know there are some weird exceptions with certain units cards, and I don't know every unit's cards memorized and all those exceptions off the top of my head. So instead of me just saying offensive is always going to be the way to go, because I don't know that that's 100% true for everyone, I would do experimentation. Go and balance and put it on auto, but don't actually AFK. Take a look at the run and see what cards you're using, which cards the AI tends to be skipping over, and kind of see if there's like really high damage cards that you're skipping over and the AI doesn't really seem to be using. Try a different setting and then go and test that out and see if there's any differences that you see. If certain cards switch around in the AI's priority order, that can easily increase your farming speed by a tremendous amount right there, right off the bat. So that's the first thing that you can do. Now, the next thing is really important. I've noticed this myself, and this is not something that I can say is 100% true, but I did notice that in power saving mode, my game tends to actually hang up and lag more than it normally does. Like at the end of a run, there's usually like 5 seconds or so of loading time before you get to the next run. And I have noticed that in power saving mode, for me anyway, it hangs up more when I'm using that than when I'm not. And it actually does increase my the time that it takes for me to complete runs. So like I said with the actual AI settings, I'm not going to say like 100% power saving mode is always going to slow down your farming speed, but just do some experimentation. Go through and see without power saving mode, if you are farming at a certain speed, go then and test and put on a power saving mode and see if you're still able to keep up that same number of runs per hour. So just something to double check. I don't know if it's something that was just with me particularly or if it's an issue for everyone, but it is something that I noticed. And once I turned that off for myself, I was able to get quite a few more runs in per hour. That's just some basic stuff. Of course, you always want to have the play speed on ultra. That's obviously going to increase your speed. Resolution quality, not super important. Obviously, I don't actually know why I'm recording in low. That's probably not good, but that's kind of off topic right there. That's the most important stuff right there. Is the AI settings, the power saving mode. Take a look at that, and also the play speed. Now let's get into a little bit more of the in-depth details about really how you want to approach farming. So a lot of the times you'll hear people say, you've got your PvP team and then you've got your farming team. But it's important to note that this is a generalization. It does not mean that you have to use the same units in your farming team for all types of content. That's absolutely not true, and that mindset is going to hold you back quite a bit. I could say this was a really big mistake that I made myself for the longest time, is I was very stubborn and I wouldn't switch out certain units that I knew would actually do a lot better in a particular form of content. So, just as an example here, so you guys can see, we just got Blue Demon Meliodas added to the game, right? Very, very strong AoE farming unit. However, he's not really the optimal unit, in my opinion, for the Red Book farming, because you don't need his insane amount of damage, because this is, typically easier compared to other content in the game, like the boss battles. And he ends up activating his, not his actual AoE pierce damage card a lot. It prioritizes other card, and that can actually mess up the speed and the amount of turns that it takes for you in order to farm books. So I would actually go with a different unit, and there's plenty of choices. There's no one particular right or wrong option, but the most important thing that you want to examine is you want to kind of go through an experiment and see how many turns it is taking for you in order to complete that content. Really important. You want to, your goal with farming is to try to get the number of turns to as low of a number as possible. And think about it this way as well. When you take a turn, when an enemy wave shows up and you take a turn, if you can one-shot that wave, you deny the enemies from being able to take their turn, which saves a lot of time because, you know, not only does it take time when you act, it also takes time when your enemies act as well. So a perfect book farming run, and don't worry if you can't do this, by the way, because you don't have the gear or the units. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is just to show as an example kind of that idea of saving time. A perfect run is 3 turns, and that means that you completely deny the enemies from acting at all. You have your first 2 waves of trash, which get one-shotted, and then you have the third wave, which has got the boss, who gets one-shotted as well, and then you deny them from acting. So you've got 3 complete actions. Now, if you have a 4-turn run on the last wave, for example, not only do you have to act twice, but you also give your enemy a full turn of action as well. So technically, it's a 4-turn run, but it's really 5 total actions. You have 1 additional action from yourself and 1 additional action from the enemy, them having the actual chance to act as well. So you go from like 3 to 5. So it does add a good amount of time, and that's why that should always be your #1 goal. So speaking of units, when it comes to red books, I will actually swap out my blue demon Meliodas, who I do like to use for things like boss battles, but because he uses that skill, a lot of the times he really increases the number of times that I have 4 and sometimes even 5-turn runs on that boss stage. A 5-turn run means that it's really actually 7 actions, because not only do I have to act 3 times on that boss battle, but I give my enemy 2 actions as well. So, you know, big difference between a 3-turn run and a 5-turn run. So what I actually like to use is think about, is there any way that you can lower the number of turns with the units that you use? I know Blue Gia is a really popular unit specifically for book farming because she has a really awesome unique that actually gives her the ultimate gauge if she doesn't take damage. And those first 2 waves, you are not going to be taking damage. They are going to be the ones with the low HP. You should have no problem getting through those ones, and that's going to ramp up the ultimate gauge. And that's really the main reason why she's good. You know, she does have an AoE, and her ultimate, of course, is also AoE, but that extra ultimate gauge is going to make the chances of you one-shotting that last wave a lot higher than if you were to use other units. Now, if I were to not use Blue Gia, there are still other options. You know, you could use Blue Meliodas, but it's probably going to lead to a lot more 4-turn runs. You could use Weinhardt as well. I know I used him. Weinhardt, I had a lot of 4-turn runs, but I never really saw 5-turn runs. But with Blue Gia, I'm seeing a lot of 3-turn runs. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a good amount of time, and that should be your goal. With any stage that you're farming, with whatever content you're doing, is try to think of ways that the champion's skills and abilities allow you to complete that in as few turns as possible. So just going through here as an example, we'll see here if we can get lucky and get a 3-turn run right off the bat. But the Merlin ultimate is obviously going to help out. And what we're really doing is just ramping up the ultimate and the damage for that last wave. So the order of the units is also pretty important, because keep in mind that the unit that you have on the left side is actually the only unit that has the possibility to get a natural merge on their card. Because your very left card here is going to be completely random. You've got 2 cards from each unit that are going to be assembled in the exact same order every single time, and then your card on the left is going to be random. So if you land on the right one, you can merge and get off to a really good start. Alright, so I believe she's going to activate her ultimate here. Yes, she is, because she got that extra ultimate gauge there. Now she's going to activate this, and this should have no problem clearing out the wave. So having that additional ultimate ramp up to be able to one-shot this boss it's very particular for this stage. You could see, though, that as soon as you start taking damage, which is why she's not really somebody that you would use in more difficult boss battles, is as soon as she takes damage, the one thing about her that really makes her unique for this Red Book stage is gone, and she's now just kind of like, you know, average-ish, I guess you could say, at least compared to other AoE farmers. So use that mentality for whatever content that you're doing and try to get the number of stages that it takes you to complete that content as low as possible. So now I'm just going to go ahead and switch over and do a run with Blue Demon Meliodas, just so you guys can see that it's very, very unlikely that it's going to get done in 3 turns, even though Blue Demon Meliodas is technically a stronger unit, and people would probably consider him to be overall a better farmer. And he is for a lot of content, but not necessarily for this right here. So let's just switch over and let's actually keep this because my Jericho is maxed out. So this is actually probably better here. So let's go through here. And now we don't have the ultimate ramp up, so it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to have an ultimate ready on that last boss stage. So, you know, that is really simple. That one little thing is going to not cause me to one-shot the boss stage, which is now going to lead to 4-turn runs or even longer. And now you give the enemy a chance to act, and it's really going to slow down your runs a lot. So getting the turns as low as possible is super, super important. And every turn that you can eliminate from your overall, you know, combat routine, especially for an event like Half Stamina, if you can improve the rate at which you're doing runs just by 25%, that could easily be 10 million gold that you're going to be able to farm compared to what you were before, just by that one turn. And that's going to be during the Half Stamina events. So you can see that the corrosion ability right there, he likes to use that as his first, you know, that the AI really likes to prioritize that a lot. And it's unfortunate because it's great in a lot of circumstances, and his Pierce ability is fantastic. But specifically for Red Book farming, our #1 goal is to get this as few turns as possible. And then this adds a tremendous amount of time to the actual farm here. So really look at the best way to optimize the turns that it takes for you to complete content. So anyway, I threw an insane amount of info in this video. I'm really hoping that some of it helped out, even if it was just the basic stuff that I talked about earlier, like the AI settings, the ultra speed, and the power saving, but also hopefully you learned a little bit from the more in-depth look at kind of how to approach farming. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to answer just about anything that I possibly can, but I am going to leave it here for today. So if you enjoyed the video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a quick like as well. It means more than you can imagine, so thank you so much to all of you who do that. And more 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross Global videos should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out, but if not, until next time, take care everyone, have a great day, and this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.